Hi, my name is Stephanie, and today I want to talk to you about alexithymia and autism. So what is alexithymia? Which, by the way, I've been saying wrong again. One of those words that I don't know why, but I was just saying wrong. I keep on calling it alexithymia, so I'm going to do my best to say alexithymia throughout this video. According to Nemaya et al. 1976, alexithymia is a subclinical phenomenon involving a lack of emotional awareness, or more specifically, difficulty in identifying and ascribing feelings and in distinguishing feelings from the bodily sensations of emotional arousal. And another source gives it a more literal meaning along with some other features seen in alexithymia. Alexithymia literally means no words for feelings. The concept refers to a hypothesized communicative function of somatic symptoms. Its key features are a relative constriction of emotional functioning, poverty of fantasy life, and inability to find appropriate words to describe one's emotions. So in super basic terms, alexithymia is basically the inability to match emotions with words, whether that is identifying what the emotion is or just describing what said emotion is, trying to figure out what's going on inside your body emotion-wise and not being able to communicate that in words. Someone with alexithymia may also confuse emotions with physical body sensations. Now, these feelings could be quite your average simple feelings, but for someone with alexithymia, this might just kind of feel like an unsettling mass of yuck that is hard to distinguish and determine, and when you don't understand what you're feeling, it can be distressing in itself. Now, I personally experienced this to some degree, and I actually thought this was pretty normal. I think a lot of times I try to kind of categorize things under like depressed and upset because I'm learning what those are, but otherwise I can have a lot of trouble with maybe more nuance to what I'm feeling. I think most of the time I understand like when I'm happy, like overjoyed, but it's almost like a lot of times I don't tend to know what I'm feeling unless if it's like in the extremes, or sometimes I almost feel like I'm investigating. Like, I think maybe what I'm feeling is this because of X, Y, and Z, and I'm like trying to figure it out. And it actually helps me a lot to talk to other people for them to help put words to what I'm feeling because I can't. But apparently someone asking you how you're feeling and you saying, I don't know, isn't super typical. That in particular was an interesting thing to deal with early on in my relationship with my husband, especially because, again, we didn't know that I was autistic, we didn't know all these things, and he would be trying to communicate with me about difficult things. We're talking about feelings and all that stuff that you have to deal with in relationship, and I'd be starting to shut down, and he'd say, well, what are you feeling? And I would say, I don't know. And then that would make him upset or frustrated because obviously he's sharing how he feels. And then he's like, well, you have to know how you're feeling. What do you mean you don't know? Like, you have to know what you're feeling. I don't. Like, I don't. And that would kind of become a point of contention because it sounds like I'm lying to someone who understands how they're feeling most of the time. I think this can also often contribute to shutdowns and meltdowns because it's another kind of almost like a sensation going on inside that is almost like it's mounting, but you can't see it. I don't know how to explain. You can't grasp it. And so it's just another thing that's like this. And because you can't identify it, because you can't put it into words, to maybe try to deal with it, I imagine you would deal with it, or at least knowing kind of helps. I don't know. It just kind of adds to like the noise. And I'm not talking about the physical sensation of hearing, but like, you know, when stuff is like that, like surely you understand what I'm saying. This is super hard to say in words, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Either way, it's almost like this mounting storm of something. You just don't understand what. And I really do think that alexithymia, or at least the difficulty of putting words to emotions or identifying emotions, can definitely contribute to meltdowns and shutdowns, especially when other people are wanting to try to engage and you do not know how to put those things in words for them. For the record, I don't think I experienced alexithymia in any severe form. I know there are probably people who definitely feel that a lot more, but I do kind of think it's amusing because I use the word frustrating a lot, because I remember distinctly in, I believe it was 4th or 5th grade. I think it was 4th grade. And we had a special class that we went to for talented and gifted kids, or talented and creative kids, because it was TAC Lab. And we had to go and participate in something. I don't remember if it was actually a part of our class, our normal classes, and we had missed it and we needed to make it up or something. I don't know. Basically, we had to try to put like a face and a word to go along with an emotion, and everyone had already gotten like happy, sad, angry. You know, those are very simple emotions, right? Those are, in my world, the emotions. And they helped me come up with frustrated. And ever since, frustrated is the fancy word in my vocabulary for my own personal emotions. Anyway, moving on. The main characteristics of alexithymia include 1. Difficulty identifying feelings and distinguishing between feelings and bodily sensations of emotional arousal. 2. Difficulty describing feelings to other people. 3. Reduced capacity to fantasize and to imagine. 4. Stimulus-bound, externally oriented cognitive style. And more recently, 5. Low perspective taking, as well as difficulty understanding and describing the emotions of others. Now, when I read that, I found that kind of interesting because the mention of low perspective taking definitely reminded me of the concept of theory of mind, and there's a little bit of a debate about that, whether we actually lack theory of mind or whether other people are the ones who are lacking theory of mind, or maybe perhaps, I think personally, we are failing to understand each other real well because we have different neurotypes. So obviously there's going to be a failure there, but either way, perspective taking, that concept, is shown here under alexithymia. Now, again, on this channel, I talk about autism-related things, and I'm talking about alexithymia with autism, and I'm kind of connecting some of these things to the autistic experience. But that's really not a leap, because alexithymia is noted to be quite prominent in the autistic population specifically. Alexithymia is present in approximately 10% of the general population, with significantly higher incidence levels within autistic populations, about 50%. Recent work suggests that comorbidity with alexithymia may be a fundamental factor in some of the social impairments, including empathy and emotions perception, exhibited by autistic individuals. Many experts feel that it is quite likely that alexithymia and autism kind of work together and feed on each other to cause some of the issues that we typically see with autistic individuals. This source agrees. The lack of emotional awareness has a negative impact on subjective emotion regulation and compromises the understanding of others' emotions, giving rise to problems in social interaction. In particular, because of their difficulty identifying and classifying feelings, people suffering from alexithymia cannot interpret or recognize emotional stimuli, such as facial expression or tone of voice, both verbal and nonverbal. As a consequence, they have difficulty establishing social relationships characterized by intimacy and proximity, understanding the intentions and attitudes of others, and making morally relevant decisions that take into account others' points of view. These aspects of alexithymia, together with the communication and social skills deficits, are among the most relevant overlapping elements between alexithymia and ASD. And we see here that this can negatively affect our relationships with other people, and it also can cause that characteristic naivety that we see a lot of times in autistic individuals, because it's really hard for us to take someone else's perspective while maintaining our own, and also understand someone else's intentions. Autistic people are pretty well known for being very loving and very trusting people, because it's hard for us to comprehend the concept of you having bad intentions. This one in particular actually drives me insane sometimes, because I do have a really hard time understanding people's bad intentions in reality. So I can understand, like, in a story, right? them explaining all the things, and then you can see like, oh, they have bad intentions, and then they went and did this thing, and of course they did because they had those intentions, and blah blah blah, right? Like, it's all spelled out for you. And I can understand it even like on a TV show or in a movie, like I can see that because they show it for you. But then if someone tells me about something that someone did in real life with the people around me, it is very hard for me to comprehend that that's real. It is very difficult for me to understand how people can really be like that. How people can really think sometimes that the ways that they do. It's really hard for me to really concretely understand that people really do think differently than me, have different intentions that are very bad, and it's just hard for me to actually fathom that the real people in my real life actually have those, because I can see it in stories and hypothetical situations, but it's very hard for me to understand and comprehend that that's real in my world, in my, like, the people around me and stuff like that. So it's, I don't know, it's frustrating to me because it's like there's no way someone can explain it to me enough for it to get through my head that that's like really who they are and really what's going on in their mind. I tend to believe that people are telling me the truth when they talk to me. Even though I can see when people are lying and manipulating other people, I have a hard time understanding that people aren't telling me the truth unless if they don't have like a real close relationship with me and are, you know, setting off red flags or something. People close in my life, it's hard for me to get like, you would really look at me in the eyes and lie to me and have bad intentions. And look, I'm a human being. I've had bad intentions before. I've done bad things before, but I feel like some people have those a lot and that doesn't make sense to me. It's also very like something that's really hard for me to even accept with myself. So like the idea that, I don't know, basically what I'm trying to say is like, it's very difficult in my, to bring it into like a sense of concrete understanding that people are really like that. Now, not only that, I again believe that this does contribute to meltdowns and shutdowns, something I briefly mentioned beforehand and tried poorly to describe to you. However, this source might help a little bit more. Alexithymic individuals seem to be vulnerable to mounting tension from undifferentiated states of unpleasant emotional arousal. This vulnerability is presumably caused by a disturbance in the processing of emotional awareness that is believed to interfere with the subject's ability to experience and express emotions. Now, something I would like to note on that, just because someone has trouble putting emotions into words or maybe being able to distinguish them from something else, I don't think that necessarily means that they don't experience emotions. And the reason I want to note that is because some people really think that autistic people do not really experience emotions or don't really have much empathy or whatever. Just because we can't put it into words, or just because we can't describe it or figure out what it is from something else we're feeling, doesn't necessarily mean we don't experience it. Another thing to note is that someone can have alexithymia without being autistic, and someone can be autistic without having alexithymia. The fun thing about this is, despite the heavy trait overlap, we just don't know enough about either of these things to fully understand the relationship that they have with each other and the exact influences that they might be having on each other. In spite of the high volume of research devoted to the relationship between alexithymia and ASD, no one unequivocal answer has been provided to the question surrounding their precise relationship. In fact, it is still not clear whether this should be interpreted in causal terms and in which direction. Whether one of them is a secondary phenomenon due to the occurrence of dysfunctions caused by the onset of the other, i.e. whether there is a comorbidity or an epiphenomenal relationship, or whether it is a mere yet unspecified co-occurrence. This situation of etiological uncertainty is partly due to our incomplete understanding of the cognitive, physiological, and neurophysiological mechanisms underlying the onset of both conditions. So there you go. Alexithymia, in very basic terms, is a difficulty in being able to identify emotions and describe them maybe putting words to them. It has a lot of overlap of main characteristics with ASD. However, we don't know enough about either to tell what kind of relationship they have together. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it useful. As always, the references or resources for the reading, etc. links are in my description box, so be sure to check those out if you would like to. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy autism related content from me, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I upload to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you to everyone who supports me here on YouTube as YouTube members, my patrons over on Patreon, and a special thank you to my spaz tier patron, Marie Johansson. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!